WCNC Charlotte. This is Flashpoint, where power and politics collide and the tough questions get asked and answered.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. Today, two former rivals now taking two different paths forward in pursuing their political careers. Jeff Jackson pulling out a win against Pat Harrigan last year in the fight for North Carolina's 14th congressional district. In a moment, we'll speak to Mr. Harrigan about his new run for Congress and his last-minute switch of districts this week. But first, Jeff Jackson. After one term in Congress, he now has his eyes set on being the top law enforcement official in the state. Joining us now is Congressman Jeff Jackson. He's now running for State Attorney General. Congressman, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Good to see you again. All right, I want to talk about affordable housing because this past week you introduced legislation that would basically say for any company that buys 75 or more homes to then rent out, that they would have to pay a $10,000 per house into the trust fund. Is that how it would work?
Sounds confusing. Here's the idea. We have a very small supply of houses for sale in Charlotte. We have a shortage, and we have some companies that are making this worse by buying up the houses that are for sale and then taking them off of the for sale market by flipping them for rent. So it's taking a shortage, it's making it worse. What this bill is designed to do is say, if you're one of these companies, not mom and pop doing some landlord thing, but if you're a big company buying up hundreds and hundreds of homes, then we want to financially disincentivize that so you'll do it less, and we want to use the funds that we generate to help low-income families put a down payment on a home. It's a hard problem to solve. We wish there was a way to just pull one lever and just make this stop.
Because it's probably not constitutional for you all to come out and say, company, you cannot buy 75 homes. And
you can't just write a one-sentence bill that bans this. Our office worked for several months trying to craft a solution. I'll tell you, I don't think it's perfect, and I'm open to some new ideas as we go through the system here, but we have to solve this problem. It's turning a major problem into a crisis.
I want to talk about redistricting because you're basically being drawn out of your current district. And you knew this was going to happen. I mean, you predicted this. You said this last year. So, for one, was it worth it to run for this one term? And what have you learned in this one term in Congress?
It was definitely worth it, and it's been a really educational experience. First of all, there are way more serious people there than I would have expected just watching from the outside. Being in the building and finding who those serious people are, where the zones of reasonability exist, that's been an education. As for redistricting, you're right, it was not a huge surprise. North Carolina has a major history with whichever party is in power drawing the map to benefit themselves. The very first bill I ever filed in the state legislature was to ban that practice. You shouldn't let politicians draw their own maps because they always cheat. When my party had the ability to do this, my party cheated. Now the other party's doing it, and it's the same thing.
I think that's actually when you got a lot of your sort of internet fame was a speech you gave on the Senate floor up in Raleigh, and it was about redistricting. I think that's what it was about. What is the solution to this then? Why is there not an easy solution, or is there one?
The reason there isn't an easy solution is because the politicians don't have an incentive to give this power back to the voters. The places where this has been solved are states that have a ballot referendum where citizens can get signatures and then force something onto the ballot and change the Constitution. North Carolina doesn't have that. To change our Constitution has to be approved first by the state legislature, so it's a difficult situation.
Do you think you would be running again if it weren't for the redistricting in your current House seat?
I mean, I don't know. We have our current Attorney General who's vacating that seat, so it is an open seat. It's an opportunity to serve at a statewide level. And the beautiful thing about AG, it's not like you see in Congress with all the theatrics. It's not really about left versus right. It's just about doing what's right. That's a very tempting way to serve the public.
More on that now. Why run for Attorney General? You've been state senator, you've been congressman, now Attorney General. Why?
Well, I've been a prosecutor as well. That's how I started my work, and I'm in the National Guard. I'm in the JAG Corps, so I've got a background in this. And like I said, it's a wonderful opportunity to be an independent voice. It's not supposed to be a partisan job. It's supposed to be a nonpartisan job that's just about standing up for people. That's a great job.
I assume you approve of the current job that Josh Stein is doing?
There's a lot of alignment there. Yeah, I think in particular he's really taken on robocalls in a way that's made us hostile to robocalls. That's a good reputation for a state to have. Clean air, clean water, he's been really strong there too.
You've garnered a tremendous following on Tik Tok and on social media. Folks watching right now might know you actually from that more than anything. You were on The Daily Show a few weeks ago. At the same time, why do you think that has resonated? Why do you feel like it's important for elected officials like yourself to be on these platforms? I've
been a little surprised by the response. I just put a camera up in my kitchen and I tell people, here's what happened in Congress this week, and the response has been overwhelming. As it turns out, people really want to be spoken to in a normal tone of voice and without all the screaming and hollering, and here's what I did this week. It's transparency, and I think that's what people have been looking for.
Is it safe to assume you would continue this if you become AG?
Absolutely.
One of your opponents, Dan Bishop, a congressman as well right now, also running for Attorney General, has said that your TikTok use is irresponsible because it's owned by China and because it's poisoning the minds of young kids. I think you've been fairly upfront and honest that you don't think TikTok is a perfect platform.
No. Well, frankly, all these social media companies have a lot to answer for. TikTok, among them, there are a bunch of legitimate concerns, and I would support any number of solutions with respect to TikTok. That said, every week I do an update and I post it to 7 or 8 different platforms, TikTok being one of them. TikTok happens to be where most of my constituents are watching, and I think if it's going to exist, we should use it for good.
And you've said before in the past that you have a phone specifically dedicated to your TikTok app.
Yeah, because the security concerns are completely legitimate, and so I'm trying to take some just sensible precautions there.
Understand we have to get through a primary first. Your thoughts on Dan Bishop in the general election?
Well, I think people in this state know him pretty well. I mean, he's famous for having written HB2, the bathroom bill. I think that did a lot of damage to the state. Memories are still fresh there. I think he's basically known as Mr. Culture War, and this job is not supposed to be about culture war. This is the top law enforcement officer for the state. It's supposed to be nonpartisan. It's supposed to be independent. That's who I'm going to be.
And where do you see yourself after this race?
Running for re-election.
And then after that, what prize do you have your eyes on further down the road?
I really don't. This would fill any sense of ambition that I have because it is probably the best job in public service. You just get to stand up for people every day. That's a beautiful thing.
Do you see yourself at any point in the near future, you're still relatively young, stepping back from the public sector, say in case you lose this race or anything else? You've gone from state senator to congressman to AG candidate. Any desire to step away now at some point?
Well, I still serve in the military. I think I'm going to keep that up. I'm at 21 years now and have no signs of slowing down there. So no, I don't think so. I think some way or the other, people who feel a compulsion to be useful are going to look for ways to serve the public.
All right. Congressman Jeff Jackson, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Good to see you as always. Take care. Happy holidays to the family as well.
Thanks so much.
More Flashpoint after this.